Welcome back to Our Community. Susie Thomas visiting with Nate Christofferson from Sold Out and the Pregnancy Choices here in town, and Jason Burt, who will be coming to town with the Silver Ring Thing. Jason, tell me a little bit about the young people who are involved in Silver Ring Thing.
Sure. Well, our team, again, is recruited from all over the country. So we have people from California and Florida and Texas and all over the place that they've applied for our team to basically serve as missionaries for a year. And so we have 6 guys, 6 girls that are all, 19 to 23 years old. And so essentially they are all people that are young people with great passion and enthusiasm and talent and have come to that point in their life where they've realized that God's plan, His will for their lives, is their sexual purity, to avoid sexual immorality. And so regardless of the background, regardless of what got them to that point, they've now agreed to that and they're walking that out. And so they've got a great enthusiasm to share that with their peers in a way that says, kind of come and join us. It's not us talking down, but it's us saying, let's be on this journey together. And so they travel. They do about 75, 80 events a year all over the country, and it's a pretty cool experience.
It would be so hard to be a teenager today. It was hard in my day, and we did not have all the media throwing all this stuff and trying to jam a different kind of morality down our throats, showing us that it's a good girl waits until she's ready. What happened to wait until you're married? It's completely different when you go to movies and television and what's considered even family hour television, and how bit by bit that slippery slope of more and more immorality being shoved down people's throats. How is a teenager supposed to navigate media these days?
Yeah, media is incredibly challenging. The more, every single day I think we're learning more and more about what this kind of the digital technology revolution is really doing in our society. And I think we're going to look back 10 years from now and say, man, we just kind of jumped in feet first and didn't give much thought to how all these things are impacting us. I'm in complete agreement with you. I could not imagine trying to navigate some of the pressures in today's culture when it comes to technology specifically. When you think of some of the social media platforms like Snapchat or even it's sexting, it's expected. Students are expected that a girl is I just send them a picture. It's no big deal. They think that things are anonymous and not realize that online it's forever. It will be found. It's a challenge, and I think for a lot of young people, it's hard. That is their world. You can't break from it entirely. That's where they live, But you do need to have more wisdom and care and discernment. And I think that to back off from some of that engagement, and I think we'll see that. I think we're actually going to see. It's interesting. Social media that was created to be very social, connect you to all these different friends, like Facebook, and people had hundreds and hundreds of friends. Now a lot of the social media is more about like private conversation. It's less community social. And so we may see a backlash to where people realize, like, this isn't good for me. It just causes more anxiety and stress and this FOMO, the fear of missing out, all of these issues that hopefully will ultimately compel people into just strong relationships and friendships and accountability and mentorship roles and everything like that.
We may see, going back to very low-tech, basic one-on-one FaceTime, not the on-my-phone FaceTime, but sitting across a table with somebody and really having some FaceTime. It's been a Pandora's box. I also think young people today are presented with such mixed messages. You have the #MeToo movement, which is an important movement, but when a woman is saying it dressed so immodestly, it really is a double standard, don't you think?
Yeah, certainly. There's a double standard when it comes to just a lot of the social reconstruction that I think we're experiencing today. The levee's breaking on some of these things. I think that we need to. I go back to. Call me old school, but I really go back to. Psalm 119 asks this question. Psalm 119:9. The Bible asks the question. It says, "How can a young person stay on the path of purity?" And then it answers the question. It says, "By living according to your word." And I think that if we just go back to that basic precept within our churches of how people ask all the time, how are young people going to live this out today? Well, if we return to God's word and reflect on His design and how He created us into His image, and that there's beauty in the sacrament of marriage and in how God created this as a reflection of the Christ and His church, and just if we kind of lift that back up so that it's more compelling, So it's not talked down on.
Right.
Right now we're in that culture to where like you're talked down on if you're in a kind of a heterosexual marriage, or if you're saying I'm waiting for a marriage, you're considered the outcast. If we can esteem that in a compelling way that says, listen, God's plan from the very beginning is when Christ said, I've come that they might have life and that to the full. We can experience that by living according to his word, not by just kind of caving to every different ideology of the culture.
Mm-hmm. Well, you must have some great stories about responses of some of the students after you've gone from place to place and been doing this. Can you share some?
Sure. I mean, we've got like thousands of testimonies from different people. I mean, a lot of them that have just shared. The biggest thing is so many kids who are just broken, who come from other backgrounds of, like I said, abuse or neglect, and you just felt like that it was over for them, that they were kind of damaged goods or used, and just saying, this is the first time I've really felt a sense of worth, that God loves me, that I can be restored and redeemed, and I have a sense of worth and hope from it. Honestly, one of the examples that I love to share is a girl actually that works on our team, a girl named Mackenzie, who, many years ago attended an event, and it comes from a broken background. Parents had been divorced. Father was a drug addict. I mean, all kinds of brokenness, and in her own past was, pretty sexually active, but somehow almost stumbled into the back of a Silver Ring Thing event and made a profession of faith, committed her life to Christ that night, and that set her on a path to where.
Wow.
She began walking with him. A few years later, applied for our team, joined our team, and then started to share her testimony all over the country, impacting thousands. It was just a great picture of when Jesus talks about scattering the seed on the soil. That soil hit the fertile ground. You never know when it's good soil, when it's ready, but when it hit there, and her life has now produced the crop thousands-fold, just in terms of how God has used her. And so we get stories of those people who are now married and send us some wedding videos and pictures and just say, man, it's hard. It's hard to live it out, but it was so worth it.
You're treading into dangerous territory when you're trying to speak to kids because they change their language like every afternoon. So words that are cool one day are not cool the other day, and I shouldn't even be using the word cool, probably. But
you should be saying lit.
Lit. That's right. I don't even attempt it because I just sound so goofy because I know I'll pull out the wrong word. But how do you keep this fresh and relevant to today's young person?
Well, part of it is I'm 39 years old, and so I don't write our program. I let our young people do that, So part of it is our own value of that, kind of to be perpetually young and have young people that really speak into the content and the things that we're doing. But to speak to that point, I think one thing that students do appreciate today is just that authenticity of you and authenticity of me. I don't try to be them. I don't try to really be into their world. I don't try to dress like them, act like them. I think there's an appreciation. Again, there's a value in this culture right now of authenticity. Just you be you. Now the problem is for many people that's not rooted in that absolute truth or an understanding of God. But even when they see that in you, when I'm not trying to be something that I'm not, when I'm not trying to know their language, I'm just trying to show them that I love them, that I care about them, that I care about the choices they make and how that impacts their future, and I care about just seeing them thrive. That's what's appreciated. Not when I understand all their terminology, because like you said, you won't, especially how they communicate online. It's shocking for parents. In our own parent session, we talk about what some of these different emojis mean as they're being sent along or put on social media. Many of them that have like graphic sexual references that you wouldn't know unless you understood their world. And so, it's impossible to keep up. But you don't necessarily always have to.
I know of a mother who sent a text to her son, not me, saying, Grandpa just died, LOL. And he was like, what? And she said, I thought that meant lots of love. So, yeah, you really, really can miscommunicate easily when you try and be too cool. But yeah, all the little, just the little... not even nicknames. What is it when you take like one letter from every word and put it together, and and they all know what that is, But no, we don't. Don't even try. And they want us to be us. I love what you're saying. They want parents. They want adults that they can look up to. And so I think a lot of your message is also to adults saying, be that parent. Don't be afraid to be a parent. They don't need more buddies. They don't need more best friends. They really need someone to be a parent. Is that maybe another program? What do you do when you pull parents aside? What does that look like?
Well, I mean, that's part of what our parent session does, is just to kind of help outline for them their role and how they do that. A lot of it is how do you foster that communication? How do you open doors of that? How do you understand some of the things that are going on in the culture, as well as a lot of it's equipping them. You know, we realize we have parents for maybe 45 minutes, and so we want to, point them to some resources and some places where they can get good information to stay relevant. That, they don't have to speak the same language and understand everything, but you do need to be a student of the culture. You do need to know some of the things that are going on, especially because if you're not engaged, you're going to have no clue when your kids might be into some kind of nefarious activity and you think it's innocent. You're completely can be oblivious. So, but we try to point them to places that are going to help them in that and just get them equipped.
What kinds of things do you touch on in the short amount of time that you have with the young people? Silver Ring thing covers kind of a myriad of issues, yes? Or is it mostly about sexual purity, but that also kind of finds its way into a lot of different areas of a child's life? So what all kinds of areas do you touch on during that time?
Sure. I mean, the overarching message is of sexual purity. It's really of God's plan and His design for our lives, and how when we live it out, it's not to gain a future reward. So I think the idea that, hey, I'm going to be pure, and if I live this out, then God's going to give me a great spouse or great marriage and things like that. And that's not the case. What we say is, primarily from a gospel, narrative, is that we are called to honor God with our bodies because of what Christ already did for us on the cross. That's the message of 1 Corinthians 6. We're not our own. We are bought at a price. Therefore, honor Him and glorify Him. So we have that freedom to do that because of Christ strengthening us each and every day. So we do have to address some of the big issues, though. We talk about pornography, within the event. We talk about just the dangers and the trappings of pornography and how that is really is ruining a generation who thinks that it's maybe harmless or that it's not going to bother them. We talk about just healthy relationships and dating environment and just making wise choices, how to avoid temptations, how to set up maybe boundaries in some relationships. So there's some practical things. Like I said, we also do talk a lot about that starting over, second chances message, because that's so huge for some kids. It's amazing how many kids just say, I had no idea I could, kind of stop doing what I was doing. I thought once I started, just give it up, keep going.
Push the restart button.
Yeah.
And the payoff. How do you explain the payoff, that how things will be different for them? Why would they embrace this new lifestyle?
Well, I think a big part of it is, again, is if you kind of look at the culture with eyes wide open, you see, like, look at where this has kind of led us. So look at the Me Too movement. Look at all the Hollywood scandals. Look at all this stuff. Like, people are coming out and saying, like, there's this kind of this free-for-all sexual immorality is leaving people broken.
Yes.
But Christ came and said that I want to release the captives. I want to set the prisoners free. And so if you want to experience true freedom and joy without regret, without guilt, then this is how you can live this out. And it's not going to constrain you. It's not going to hold you back. You will find out whether you're called to singleness for the rest of your life or called to a marriage relationship. You'll find so much more satisfaction and joy in that when you're not carrying all of this baggage or all of these struggles into it. Doesn't mean it can't work. It's just a lot harder. And so, that's part of what we're just trying to say is, like, look at the brokenness. Do you really want that? Do you really think that is working for anybody? Why don't you try something different?
Yeah. Important event coming to town March 21st at New Point in Canton. Nate, how do we get tickets?
Well, it's a free event, so that's all covered by Pregnancy Choices, and of course, New Point Church is providing the location. But they can register at silverringthing.com, go under event information and find the Canton event, and they can register right there.
And of course, we want to thank sponsors who've made this available. Nate, who are those?
We have Chipotle, Chick-fil-A, and Center Ice Sports Complex are going to be sponsoring this.
And that makes it a free event. So many thanks to the sponsors, and be sure you get there. Remind me the email or the website to go to.
Website is silverringthing.com, and then just look under event information, and you can register there when you find the Canton event.
Well, many thanks to Jason Burt and Nate Christofferson, and thanks so much for bringing the Silver Ring Thing to our community.